all about our liver. Sounds like a fun topic, right? Well, what if I told you that although most people associate the liver with detoxification, maybe a little bit with digestion, it is vital in the way that it interacts with our hormones. I'm Dr. Sarah, and today I want to discuss with you the many wonders of our liver, as well as this interrelationship between our liver and our hormones. Now, just as a little bit of an introduction about the coolness of the liver, it weighs approximately 3 pounds in the average adult. So that's about 2% of the average body weight. And although it's small, it has almost 500 functions that they know of. Now, we're not going to go over all 500 functions, but I do want to discuss with you all of the ways that our liver impacts our health, the many functions of the liver. And then from there, I want to discuss how hormones impact the liver, how the liver regulates the hormones, the liver-gut-thyroid connection, and then this cool little collection of specific bacteria that are in our gut that actually modulate our estrogen levels, which also are regulated by the liver. And then I will summarize this liver hormone link. So you definitely want to stay tuned. If your doctor isn't paying attention to your liver and you have hormonal issues, you definitely want to listen to this because you want to incorporate a healthy liver in order to have healthy hormones. And I will actually get more into that in the next video to follow this one up. But in order to get the most from that, you really want to understand the ins and outs so that you have more empowerment in your own body and knowledge for yourself. So let's get started. Let's first of all talk about how the liver affects overall health. Well, the liver is basically an influencer on almost every organ system. It impacts our endocrine system, right, which is our hormonal system, which we're going to dive deep into the role in a couple of moments. It aids digestion. It's a storage location for specific nutrients. In fact, it also regulates cholesterol, which is a precursor to our hormones, as well as impacts lipid levels. It influences the cardiovascular system. It produces various proteins and it processes red blood cells. And it also plays an important role in the body's immune response. There's actually specific cells in the liver called Kupffer cells and Pitt cells that are related to immune regulation. So if we look at the overall ability of the liver to impact our organ systems, we also want to consider how the liver modulates the different functions in our body. And that is actually vast. As I said, it's estimated to be about 500 essential functions. I mean, do you even fathom how exhausted our liver is? But it's not, because it's made for all of these wonderful things that it does. So let's just go through some of the most recognized ones. I'm going to do a little bit of a list here, just so you have a broad aspect of exactly what the liver is impacting. And it might want to make you do some liver happy, healthy things when you have an appreciation what exactly your liver does in a day. All right. So it does produce bile, and bile is important because it helps us remove waste. And it also helps us break down fats that are specifically in the small intestine. So it helps us with our food digestion. It also synthesizes blood plasma proteins. One of the most important ones, well, one of the most well-known is albumin. And albumin is a protein that actually carries hormones throughout the blood. It also carries vitamins. It also is related to enzymes, and it maintains our fluid balance. So albumin is important. It, as I said, produces cholesterol, and it also produces special proteins that transport fat throughout our body. It is the synthesizer of glycogen. So when we have too much glucose, it actually packages that up, stores it as glycogen. And then when we need the glucose, it can break down the glycogen and give us our glucose. So it helps with blood sugar regulation in that aspect. It regulates amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins. It helps store fat-soluble vitamins, as well as minerals such as iron and copper. It helps metabolize poisonous ammonia. You probably heard of ammonia. Well, our body actually produces ammonia from urea, and this is an end product of protein metabolism, and it's toxic. So our liver helps with that. It helps us cleanse the blood of different drugs, of different chemicals, of any dangerous substance, really. It helps regulate our blood thickness. It helps make clotting factors. It produces immune factors and removes bacteria from the bloodstream. I'm not done yet. It also helps with bilirubin conjugation. So this is a metabolite from red blood cells, and the conjugation is when it is joined with glucuronic acid, and that's so that it can be carried into the bile and then excreted, because whether things are fat soluble or water soluble makes them either need to be attached to specific metabolites or different things into the body to be carried around in. And it also acts as a site for thyroid hormone function. So hence the liver-thyroid connection. We'll get into that a little bit more in a couple of moments. And then it helps remove waste from the body. So the liver breaks down harmful substances. Its metabolites are transported into the bile or blood. And if they're in the bile, they're usually carried to the intestine, and then they exit via our feces. And if they're in the blood, the kidneys filter out the breakdown products and then excrete them through our urine. So basically, to summarize, the liver affects almost every organ system in our body, if not all of them. It regulates most chemicals in the body and processes all the blood leaving our stomach and our intestines. It breaks down, balances, stores, and creates nutrients. It expels bile to carry away waste, and it metabolizes drugs and harmful compounds into non-toxic byproducts. So those are all the amazing things the liver does. So that's an overview. So now let's narrow it specifically to how hormones in the liver interact. So first of all, our hormones actually regulate our liver. The endocrine system actually is impactful and it's tightly interwoven. See, because hormones act on the liver and that regulates its metabolic processes and its protein synthesis. There's actually complex interactions between receptors that are found in the liver, and these hormonal actions mediate the liver's responses. And it's actually dependent on their function by these little receptors and the hormones getting into those receptors. So for example, both endogenous and external sources of estrogen have been found to alter the synthesis of specific liver proteins. And these include things for hormone and mineral transport proteins, and also some drug metabolizing enzymes as well. And then there's also evidence that estrogens and androgens actually support liver cell regeneration. So that's pretty cool. So that's how the hormones impact the liver. They're helping regulate its processes. Now, the liver affects hormones in many different ways. I'm going to do 4 broad categories here for you. So they transfer inactive hormones into active compounds, transform actually, not transfer. They do transfer, but thyroid hormones, for example, the thyroxine, which is T4, it actually converts that into T3, triiodothyronine, and then it actually helps with vitamin D conversion, vitamin D3 to 25 hydroxy vitamin D. That's what they measure in your blood levels. And then it also inactivates and metabolizes and excretes different hormones from the body. It synthesizes transport proteins. So here's the transport part, which regulate hormone levels. So when hormones are bound for transport, they remain inactive. And that's important because our hormones are strong and we don't want them always active when they're being transported. And then the liver also is important for production of hormone-dependent growth factors and inhibitors. So if there's damage to the liver, such as non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, that can affect endocrine functions, and then endocrine functions can affect the liver. So those are the direct interactions between the liver and hormones. Now that we know all of the various aspects that the liver impacts as far as organ systems, we know some of its functions, we know the liver and hormone interactions that are more direct. I want to talk to you about the liver-gut-thyroid connection. Because if we look at the liver-gut connection, there's this portal vein. It's a bidirectional connecting link. Now, this vein carries blood from the gut to the gallbladder, pancreas, spleen, and then to the liver. So it's all kind of getting filtered into the liver. And what it does is it delivers metabolites that are made in the intestine. brings it to the liver breaks these little things down, and it stimulates the liver to produce the bile to carry it, out of the body and out of the liver, and also to make antibodies. So it's kind of like the processing site for the immune system. This cycle continues then when the bile and these immune substances that are secreted go back into the digestive tract, where they can be further metabolized by the microbes. So this feedback loop is called enterohepatic circulation. So entero is intestine, hepatic is liver, circulation. And it determines the amount of bile acids that are produced, which is important because we need bile for detoxification and we need it for fat digestion. And we also need it to help neutralize different substances, including hormones. So that's a liver-gut connection. And there's this link there specifically with the gut-liver estrogen clearance, because the liver's ability to inactivate, metabolize, and excrete hormones is related to this interaction between these special microbial populations that are in the gut. And there's a specific group of a collection of different bacteria known as the estrobolome. And the bacterial species in the estrobolome possess beta-glucuronidase, and that's an enzyme activity that actually recycles estrogen back into the blood instead of being eliminated through the stool. So technically, if you needed more estrogen, that would be a good thing. In general, the more of these microbes there are, the less the estrogen is eliminated. Now, that could be a good thing or bad thing. If there's dysbiosis or an imbalance in the gut microbiota, estrogen balance could be disrupted, right? And then maybe more is being recycled than needs to be, and not enough is getting eliminated. That can lead to what they call estrogen dominance, which is a greater ratio of estrogen to progesterone. And if you've watched any of my previous videos, we know how essential hormonal balance is in one hormone, because how that impacts and throws off all the other ones. So it's really important to have this healthy liver-gut communication, because these will be either recycled through enterohepatic recirculation or not. So the actual estrogen dominance has been linked to endocrine disorders such as endometriosis, PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and fertility issues. So this is an important kind of liver-gut estrogen connection here. Now, there's also a connection between our liver and our thyroid, because it's pretty complex, but it's super cool, because the liver regulates thyroid hormone activation, inactivation, transport, and its breakdown. And then the thyroid hormones impact liver metabolism and processes. Now, if we look some of the specifics for those who want a little bit more detail, as far as hormone activation and inactivation, the liver is actually responsible for 30 to 40% of our active thyroid hormone. So if you have a thyroid issue and you're not getting anywhere, you might want to look at, 30 to 40% is not a small amount of active thyroid. And again, you're going to look back at the gut too, right? Because of this liver-gut thyroid link here. There's this type 1 deiodinase enzyme in the liver that is responsible for this active component. And then it also catalyzes the conversion of our other thyroid subtypes. So there's more than T3, T4, there's T2, there's reverse T3, there's T2 subtypes, T1. So all of some of those conversions, those catalyzed conversions of the enzyme processes actually are done in the liver. So reverse T3 actually happens in the liver, and that's an inactive form. A lot of people feel it's correlated to chronic inflammation or infections. Mostly infections is what the literature says. Now, transport and metabolism of thyroid hormones is also impacted by the liver, because it's also responsible for activating thyroid hormone. It also extracts thyroid hormone from the blood plasma through a transport mechanism. And then it synthesizes plasma proteins that bind the thyroid hormone to make it inactive as it travels. So this creates a pool of circulating inactive hormones. So some of the proteins that it creates are its namesake, thyroxine binding globulin, right? It's going to bind the thyroxine, which is T4. There's prealbumin and albumin as well that carry different hormones. So the relationship between the thyroid and the liver is actually shown clinically in that liver enzyme abnormalities will be found in people with hypo or hyper, that's underactive or overactive thyroid disorders. And those with various liver disorders also can have thyroid disorders. So the liver is key for a variety of our body processes, and it's complex, it's bidirectional between how the liver regulates hormones and how the hormones regulate the liver. I really focus more specifically kind of on the liver's job with the hormones, but basically hormones regulate every process in the body as well. We kind of went through all that, and I will provide some links to some of those previous videos, so you have that in the video description. But again, there's this interaction as well. We also want to think about the gut and how that interacts with the liver, and then these gut liver as well as gut thyroid axis too. So if I'm going to summarize here, the liver, as far as hormonal interactions, it makes proteins that hormones travel throughout the blood, and this affects their availability for cellular uptake. It interacts with estrogen, right, through this estrobolome. It is a major site of hormone metabolism, so it's activating and inactivating, and it converts thyroid and other hormones into their active forms, which is what I sort of said, except it's a major site for also breaking them down. And then it influences many other processes and production of compounds that again impact hormone levels. So that's the broad general summary there for you. So I hope this gives you a new appreciation and love for your liver, because we're doing this video in February, which is the month of love. So as we're loving our heart, we can also love our liver. And then what I want to do again is, because this is a lot of information, I want to take this information about how the liver impacts hormones, and then in the next video or some upcoming videos soon, I'm going to talk about specifically hormonal imbalances, some of the symptoms, as well as how you can help support the liver to help balance some of those hormonal imbalances. Because if you're starting with just kind of tweaking the hormones and not looking at the underlying root cause, which you know I'm not a fan of, you're going to have problems later on, and you're just going to be playing whack-a-mole with your hormones. This is high, now we take this is low, now we adjust this, and it's going to be exhausting for you and your poor liver. All right, so stay tuned. Remember, you can find all of the research and references in the video description. There's a link to the article that is based on this video that goes into the details, and you can click on the research. All the references are listed there as well. I'll have some of the other videos I mentioned, and there's also going to be links to various courses that I offer for both professionals as well as a consumer. I have a ton of information on essential oils. They're one of my favorite things to use, along with mind-body intervention, supplements, and lifestyle approaches with my clients. And I also have a ton of free resources on my website that you can find for your education and viewing pleasure. Okay, so take good care. And if you have any questions, be sure to pop those in the comment section, and I will answer them, and we can have a discussion. Stay tuned and take gentle care until then. Bye.